On November 22nd, 1963, a shot rang out in Dallas, Texas. President John F. Kennedy, young, charismatic, and full of promise, was pronounced dead within the hour. The world was told it was the act of a lone gunman, Lee Harvey Oswald. But what if the real story was hidden behind redacted files, shadowy intelligence, and a government unwilling to tell the truth?
In Dallas, Texas, 3 shots were fired at President Kennedy's motorcade in downtown Dallas. The first reports say that President Kennedy has been seriously wounded by this shooting.
Truth is the first casualty of war. In the early 1960s, the United States was deep in Cold War paranoia.
I do not intend to go into those states and tell the people how to vote. I don't intend to go in and discuss the local men running for Congress or for senator. I intend to go into those states and give the American people the cold, documented picture of the sellout in Korea, the extent to which communism has been directing our foreign policy.
The CIA, formed after World War II, had grown into a powerful agency with a reputation for secret wars, foreign assassinations, and influence that rivaled the young president himself. Kennedy, just months into office, found himself at odds with this growing intelligence machine. Later on, the failed Bay of Pigs invasion in 1961 exposed deep cracks between JFK and the CIA.
Doctrine, which will struggle all around the world to go into great detail. Let me just say about these 4 men, they were serving their country, the flight that cost them their lives, it was a volunteer flight, and that because of the nature of their work, it has not been a matter of public record, as it might be in the case of soldiers or sailors. I can say that certain men have to.
He publicly accepted responsibility, but behind closed doors, the young man was furious. He fired CIA Director Allen Dulles and vowed to splinter the CIA into 1,000 pieces. This very decision may have cost him his life.
An intense relationship between Kennedy and the CIA developed as the young president began to undermine CIA power and question its legitimacy, prompting the agency to see JFK as a threat.
Ladies and gentlemen, the very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society, and we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers which are cited to justify it.
From the very start of his presidency, John F. Kennedy clashed with the CIA. After the catastrophic failure of the Bay of Pigs invasion in 1961, a plan inherited from the Eisenhower administration, Kennedy was furious at the agency's misleading assurances. He took public responsibility, but privately he began dismantling its influence. For an agency used to unchecked power, this wasn't just defiance, it was a declaration of war. Suspicions rose as the Warren Commission failed to adequately justify contradictory reports, address inconsistencies such as the magic bullet theory, and provide sufficient evidence that would support the traditional single-shooter story. In 1964, the Warren Commission concluded that Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone. But almost immediately, critics pointed out serious flaws, inconsistent witness statements, mishandled evidence, and the infamous magic bullet theory, which claimed a single bullet caused 7 wounds in 2 men. Key witnesses were ignored, autopsy reports were rushed. The final report raised more questions than it answered. To many Americans, it felt like a cover-up, not an explanation.
The Cold War tensions and fear on the American home front, coupled with the extreme nature of the CIA, which was no stranger to attempted assassinations on leaders, reinforced skepticism
and the belief that JFK's death was more than what Americans were told. The United States in the 1960s was gripped by Cold War paranoia.
Are you a member of the Communist Party? Or have you ever been a member of the Communist Party? It's unfortunate and tragic that I have to teach this committee the basic principles of Americanism. That's not the question.
As fear dominated the home front, Americans began to question how far their own government would go to preserve control. If the CIA could take out a foreign leader in secret, who's to say they wouldn't do the same at home?
Lee Harvey Oswald's puzzling and rambunctious background suggests that, rather than being an enemy, he was secretly associated with the CIA.
I don't know what this is all about. I'm just a patsy.
Lee Harvey Oswald's biography reads like a Cold War spy novel. He defected to the Soviet Union, but then returned to the US with no consequences. He was fluent in Russian, had connections to anti-Castro groups, and was reportedly under surveillance by US intelligence. Yet somehow, no agency stopped him. Some researchers argue that Oswald wasn't a lone gunman, but a CIA asset gone rogue. Or worse, a fall guy, placed exactly where he needed to be. Jack Ruby, the nightclub owner that shot Oswald, had no known mob ties. Oswald was never given a trial, and key files remain sealed even today. The government's refusal to release all JFK documents, even 60 years later, continue to raise suspicion. What are they hiding, and why?
51 years ago, the nation watched as our 35th president, John F. Kennedy, was laid to rest at Arlington National Cemetery.
Hello, my beloved Jack Kennedy.
Overhead, 50 Navy and Air Force jets performed a traditional military flyover.
This documentary doesn't claim to know all the answers, but the facts, suppressed evidence, political motive, and decades of secrecy point to one conclusion. The official story doesn't add up. Was the CIA involved in the assassination of President John F. Kennedy? We may never know for sure, but Americans deserve the truth, and the fight for the truth is not over.
If it's the truth you're looking for, look in the darkness.